Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike big wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
Hi, I'm Chris.
And I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Fergal.
And we're from Movie Smash.
Comic book movies are having a golden age right now with the MCU.
Movies based on comics aren't necessarily a new thing, but they're a big thing.
Join us every other Tuesday on Movie Smash.
We explore these movies and find some hidden gems.
Every other week, we revisit some of the best.
And some of the worst movies based on comics or graphic novels.
Was Green Lantern as bad as you remember?
Heck no!
Is Time Cop the most accurate time travel movie ever created?
Absolutely.
Was Mystery Men way ahead of its time?
Should they be revisited? Should they be forgotten?
Join us on Movie Smash and find out. Listen wherever you find your fine podcasts.
Okay, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of All2ReelToo. My name is Michael E. Cullen II, and with me, as always, is...
Sesame, why did they make this racist movie? Oh my fucking god. This movie is so racist on like so many different levels that it's almost impossible to describe. Encarta.
That's a long name. Not your longest. Yeah. I think your longest was like last week. But
yeah, last week, but now it's this one is the new one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So so there's a lot of talk in the world about how, you know, some people think that racism died a long time ago. It's still alive and well. And it was definitely alive and well in 1986. Even if not intended. I don't know, but still.
38 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, my Lord. Okay, so today on the show, we are venturing back to the 1980s to cover the 1986 film Soul Man, a film directed by Steve Miner, who I just want to point out some of his other work. He's directed a lot of TV recently, but prior to, like he's directed everything from like Diagnosis Murder to Dawson's Creek to Once Upon a Time to Smallville, things like that. He also... before this, directed both Friday the 13th Part 2 and Part 3.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's that. It was written by co-creator of The Wonder Years.
Wow.
Carol Black, who is a white woman.
Oh, that's fitting.
Yes. The creative minds behind this movie were all white. Just want to point that out. She was...
I can definitely see that.
She was also the creator of Ellen, the sitcom starring Ellen DeGeneres. So
that was like a huge hit.
Yeah. And then The Wonder Years with Fred Savage. So yeah, it's interesting.
So they're like all between that, this like gem is like tucked right in the middle.
Yeah, prior to this, the only thing she had written were 4 episodes of Growing Pains.
Okay, but that's still a pretty decent because those are all big shows. Wonder Years, especially Growing Pains and Ellen. I mean, those are. I mean, getting a writing position on those shows is, I mean, pretty big deal, you know. So, but then this is somehow.
She was also a co-executive producer of Growing Pains, and then the executive producer of both Ellen and Wonder Years. So
okay, well,
yeah. It looks like she hasn't done much since a movie called The Lost People of Mountain Village in 2005.
Ironically, I have heard of that movie, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, she's only really done like a handful of things. So, I mean, she also gets created by credit on the Wonder Years reboot because it's based on her show. So yeah,
right.
So this film
exists.
Stars Pony Boy himself, C. Thomas Howell, Tommy Chong's daughter, Ray Dawn Chong. Yeah, C. Thomas Howell stars as Mark Watson. Ray Dawn Chong stars as Sarah Walker. And just so you know, Yeah.
Wait, Tommy, like as in like Cheech and Chong guy?
That's his daughter.
Wow.
Yeah. We also have, so the last episode we did was just one of the guys, and one of the nerds in that movie was played by Ari Gross, who also was on a season or two of Ellen. So that's interesting. But
yeah, it's like I saw it coming full circle now.
Yes. He plays Mark's best friend Gordon Bloomfield. We have Professor Banks, played by the late great James Earl Jones.
Somehow.
Yeah. Whitney Dunbar, played by Melora Hardin, aka Jan from The Office.
That was her?
Yeah.
The landlord's daughter?
Yes.
I mean, not the owner of the building.
Yeah.
Wow. I did not. Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen is Mr. Dunbar, her dad. Ann Walker is Mrs. Dunbar. We have James Sicking, who people may know from Doogie Howser as Bill Watson, Mark Watson's dad. The psychiatrist, Dr. Aronson, played by Max Wright, that people will know probably most from Elf, stand-up comedian.
Elf.
What's that?
Elf. Who's he playing Elf?
He was Willie on Elf, the dad.
Oh, okay. All right.
He's a psychiatrist. Jeff Altman, the stand-up comedian, plays Ray McGrady, who's like the manager of the building. We have a young Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Lisa Stimpson. Not Lisa Simpson, but Lisa Stimpson.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
We have Mary Cheapman as Mark's mom, Dorothy. A young Wallace Langham as racist Barky Brewer. Bowie Frazier is played by Eric Schiff. We also have Mark Neely as Brad Small. One of the racist basketball players is played by Ron Reagan.
Yes, Ron Reagan.
Yes, Ronald Reagan's son.
Yep.
Yep.
That happened.
Yeah, and then some other people. Okay, so I just wanted to get all the way down to Ron Reagan here in the credits. So
I was hoping you're going to mention that.
Yes. So here's the Internet Movie Database short synopsis. To achieve his dream of attending Harvard, a pampered teen poses as a young black man to receive a full scholarship.
Yep, that's the whole movie right there.
Yes. So, initial thoughts here.
Man, I don't know. I'm like, I mean, I shouldn't be shocked because it's 1980s, but the fact that they made this movie, put it out in the theaters, and not only that, in the trailer, they had him in full blackface, and like even some of the posters for the movie in 1986.
Yeah, this is like a 40 years after Song of the South.
Yeah,
and well after Birth of a Nation or Gone with the Wind or anything like that we consider racist films. So yeah,
and then it's like 40 years afterwards, and just like anyone is gonna get all butthurt about like, oh, you're being woke or whatever. Listen to a podcast episode from Mark Maron from a few years ago where he explains how in every single era of comedy, people were saying we can't tell jokes anymore because the liberals won't let us. Like there were people who criticized blackface way back when blackface was popular. They're like, hey, this might be going a little bit too far, like.
Yeah, I mean, there's some writings on this topic. I don't know exact citations here or anything from Cliff Nesteroff too, who was on that episode. So check him out. He's a Facebook friend of mine. But yeah,
it's very interesting about it.
Yeah. So yeah, this movie. I just want to state that it's really hard to make a movie.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it's I think even harder to make a bad movie.
Yeah, I think so because you have to get. I mean, like all the stars have to align, for better or worse, for that to happen.
And I think it's either harder or easier to make a racist movie.
It exactly, but make it so racist but that they don't even know that they're being racist. That's the whole thing. You can't recreate The Room. That movie just exists on its own. You know what I mean?
And this it's you can't this movie. I think they had good intentions, but man.
I know.
The fact that nobody at New World Pictures who released this, nobody at the studio, somebody greenlit this movie. They read the script or the idea or whatever it was and said, hey, let's do that.
See, folks, this is why representation actually does matter. Again, you could criticize me for being too woke, but this is what happens when you don't have representation. You get this movie. So
I mean, I could see the concept of this movie even being done in a well-mannered way, like, but to do it as a comedy that's not funny, on top of it is even worse.
This movie is not that funny at all.
No. So, yeah. So what goes down in this script?
Okay, so Mark, he's the son of very rich parents. he's having like a huge party, probably because he graduated high school. I was thinking he graduated college and then was going on to law school afterwards, but apparently he's just
They don't really make that clear per se. I don't know.
They don't, but apparently that's I
mean, maybe he graduated some kind of undergrad thing and he was living with his parents and taking undergrad classes in Los Angeles or something. I don't know. I'm confused by it. So
yeah, too, because usually when you go to law school,
because usually you have to do all your undergrad before you go to law school,
right? So, but the IMBD says he's a teen, so I don't know. And then whatever, it doesn't matter. It's happenstance, doesn't matter. But so he's like having like a huge party, he's getting drunk, and then he wakes up. No, sorry, that's afterwards. So he wakes up, and like in bed with some girl, I guess, that he just met, and they had obviously had sex the night before.
And the first attempt to try to be funny is they show him lifting up the blanket to look at her boobies. So yeah,
that's like somehow comedy. I don't know. And then it was the 80s. It was the 80s what they did, and so his best friend pops in. He's kind of like the goofball of the movie. He actually is pretty funny though, and I think
Ari Gross is a really underrated actor overall, in my opinion. But still,
I think he was like the one saving grace of this film. So props to him for like literally propping up this movie.
In a movie with James Earl Jones and Leslie Nielsen, the good thing of the movie is
that's the other thing too. These like top players are in this movie. I don't know, whatever.
James Sickman, who plays the dad, is even a great actor. It's like you've got like all these.
It's one of those things where like you get like what was we've done another few movies like this where it was like chock full of like these really well known actors and it's like Ford Kid or something like that, or like anyway. So his friends, like the comedian, he's like, don't you think like an introduction doesn't matter? It makes it think like he's supposed to introduce this girl to his friend, but then he introduces himself to the girl, like, I get it. We don't even know each other's names. We just had sex last night. It's so cool. Yeah, now you both got STDs. Oh, anyway, because it's like the 80s and AIDS is not taken seriously. Now you both got AIDS. Anyway, so
it's definitely not taken seriously due to Ron Reagan's dad.
Exactly. That's why Ronald Reagan, he purposely put his son in the movie in order to like distract. He's like, okay, it's part of the conspiracy, son. I want you to play one of the guys in the movie.
It's funny too because like Ron Reagan is very, very progressive. So
atheist too. Every year he puts out this commercial around this time of the year, actually, where it's like the Freedom from Religion coalition or whatever. Anyway, so they have like this big frat party again, I think, and everything's going well. And then his dad's like on one of these weird.
Well, first, before that, we need to mention probably the most important character in this movie.
Oh, okay.
It is one of their friends happens to work for like some kind of pharmaceutical company. This guy who's like a total like surfer burnout, and which is it's interesting too. He's kind of silly, and the first time we see him, he's walking into the building carrying a goose. Like a statue of a goose, so he's kind of like a silly goose. But anyway,
right, yeah,
I
literally
that was done on purpose. But he's currently working on a pill, a tanning pill, so that tanning pills that you can use to make your skin tanner. So that's very, very important to things.
Yeah, it's very, very much so. Because there actually was something that would make your skin orange called beta carotene, which I took for a little while when I was a kid, and then I literally became like tanned and orangish because of taking.
Yeah. There's carotenoids. Are certain carotenoids like in some vegetables and stuff like carrots and tomatoes and stuff like that. If you put them into like pills and stuff, that there were pills out there that would help you, so you didn't have to like tan in the sun. You could just tan naturally, not naturally, but through the pills. Yeah.
Right, but because that's totally healthy, I'm sure. Hey, change the color of your skin through a pill. That's totally normal and healthy. Like,
I remember when like tanning lotions became a thing back like in the 80s, and like they were like the big thing.
yeah.
I was in grade school, and there was this girl in my class who I won't mention. Actually, I can mention her. She's okay. I mean, whatever. Her name is Adrienne. My grandma ran over her with her car, but that's another story.
Wow.
Accidentally. But
Wow.
but she used to wear the stuff, and I remember one time it didn't fully like soak into her skin, and she had like orange around her collar of her shirt one time.
Oh wow.
That was the first experience I had. Like, what's going on there? I think Adrian's melting. No. No.
Wow.
But yeah. So Mr. Tanning Pills is there, so we've got that to set up the future of the movie.
Yep. And then his dad's one of these stupid like things where you put yourself like in the back and you're like swinging around, or I'm not sure what they call those.
Some kind of 80s exercise type thing, stretching thing or something. Yeah.
And he's basically setting up like how, he's provided for him his whole life, and how he's given him, everything he's wanted, having a great time and stuff. And he's like, yeah. He's like, okay, where's this going, Dad? Because he keeps this going on for like 5 minutes, it seems like. He's like, okay, and like the greatest gift I'm gonna give you is your manhood. And he's like, okay. And he's like, I'm gonna let you pay your way through college, because his therapist told him that he needs to like start doing things for himself now, or some bullshit. I don't know. And then
it's
like funny.
It's really weird too, because this is like right before school's about to start. I think it's like,
right. It's like, why would you drop that on him now? Like, that's like the most shittiest thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, I understand his concept and wanting his kid to earn his own way and stuff like that, but that's something you discuss like maybe when he's a junior in high school or something. I don't know. Give him time.
You just drop it on him. Yeah.
It's not like, I mean, if like we're going by the premise that he's a teenager who just graduated from high school, there's no way like an 18 or 19-year-old kid has got like enough money to just go to Harvard, like in his savings account or something, It's like, what the fuck?
Especially because they're from California, so he's got to also pay for his travel all the way from LA to Austin, which is literally across the entire country.
Yeah.
Like, literally from like, I mean, it's like almost from coast to coast, like, and so him and his buddy, they're looking through all these different type of scholarships. One interestingly said something about being Ukrainians. Yeah.
So something I want to mention too is, okay, so at one point they have a really kind of insensitive scene too before this, where he's realizing how much it's all going to cost and everything, and he's standing behind a noose, like you think he's about to hang himself, which is kind of the symbolism of a man who ends up turning himself black standing behind a noose.
Exactly. Yeah, I didn't think about that. Wow.
I did. I saw it, and I'm like, this is interesting.
Wow.
And so he's talking about how much it's going to cost, and so for school, his living expenses and everything, he said for 3 years, okay, for 3 years of law school, it's going to cost at Harvard in 1986. It's going to cost him $53,975
for the entire duration of his education.
Yes. Okay. If we did natural normal inflation like you would for anything like inflation of a loaf of bread from back then to today, that should come out to $155,371.67. I did all this earlier. And so, but do you know how much 3 years of Harvard Law School actually costs with the living expenses and everything today?
No, I don't know. I'm guessing like 250,000, maybe
348,000.
So almost 200,000 extra dollars. So that's how much education has cost now in relation to back then.
But I mean,
Harvard
to be equal with other things of inflation. It's funny that like things like pay don't increase with inflation, and school like triple inflates or something, or more than
exactly.
It should. It's because
it's all written against us.
I mean, it's basically like double what it should be by normal inflation. So it's like, what the fuck?
It's all rigged against us.
Actually,
It's terrible, but
more than double because it should be like 155, but it's 348. So
saying it's like it's crazy. It's almost $200,000 extra dollars.
Yeah.
It would have been 1986 if we went by inflation.
Yeah.
This is crazy. But yeah, so his dad, who's like rich and is like pampered him his entire life, and he's like, haha, by the way, enjoy earning $150,000 according, to our aid, whatever. Like, okay, screw you, Dad. Like what the fuck, man?
I mean, even today, if you asked me to, if or like if I told one of my nephews, like, okay, you're gonna have to pay for your own college right now, and but you have to go to Harvard Law, you have to go to a school that costs $53,000, even in 2020's money, it's still like what the
it's
hell?
still too much. It is too much for the vast majority of people, and so they kind of did that whole thing. They're like trying to play that up, like, but yeah, not nearly as bad as it could be. So him and his buddy, mind you, his friend's probably the best friend in the universe. He has his back like the entire movie. Like even when he's doing stupid shit like this, and he was actually the one who kind of tried to dissuade him from doing this scheme. Like, hey, that's kind of fucked up, bro. That you're just going to take away some black person scholarship. Like,
yeah, because that's what it is. He's reading in the thing, and he tells him about the scholarship. But then then Mark looks at it and realizes, wait, it's for black men only, or not black men, but black people only. Yeah, so yeah, it's like, okay.
So yeah, that's because there was one about Ukrainian, there was one about something else, which is weird because Ukraine's in the news so much.
Yeah,
lately, that's interesting. A lot of weird things going on today were mentioned in this movie. Actually, I can't remember all of them, but there was like a few references to something. Oh yeah, like you said, the Cosby era.
Yeah,
at one point he's people love black people. It's the Cosby era.
Yeah, that's what they get to later on. It's like, okay, so he ends up trying to think of other ways, but then he ends up just going to apply for this scholarship that you have to be black to earn, and it's a scholarship for the person with like the best applicant in Los Angeles that's applying to Harvard Law School that's a black person, and so he figures out that, well, there's like 4 people in Los Angeles that want to that got accepted to Harvard, and like he's the only one that's black, quote unquote. So
yeah, so that's like a racist thing right there. Like, yeah, a white guy had to pretend to be black in order to.
And his excuse is that if he didn't take the scholarship money, it was just going to go to waste. I'm like.
That's not how that works.
Does the money not like roll over to the next candidate like the next year or something? It's like, the fuck.
Plus, I don't believe for one second that only 4 people in all the city of LA got accepted to Harvard. Like, I know it's a prestigious school, but come on, it's not like to that level. Like, I don't know.
I'm looking up something really quick.
I mean, well, I guess it could be. I just don't think it is because how many thousands of people went to our school? I mean, it was like at least like a lot of thousands of people, like 20,000 people, 30,000, something like that. It was a lot of people who went to our university. I'm not going to mention.
So like during the 2024 application cycle to Harvard Law School, 8,334 people applied, but only 798 were offered admission. So he could be right.
So it's like a small college, and okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess. All right. So it's like basically like it's like
you got to look at it too this way because it's not like all of Harvard either. It's specifically Harvard Law School. So yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. I guess. I guess he's right then. But it still is kind of racist to assume that like he had to pretend to be black in order for there to be a black applicant. Like,
yeah.
Oh boy.
Not the money was just going to go to nothing after that. It's like, I'm sure whoever created the scholarship could, use that money for something else. If they couldn't find a black candidate to go in, they could be, like maybe donate it to the NAACP or something. I'm just saying.
I know it's such a dumb premise that he thought. But then again, the whole idea is stupid because I was thinking too throughout the end of the movie, I was like, okay, so what's the end game here? Is he just going to pretend to be black for the rest of his life? Because how does this work? Like,
he graduates, but he went to school the whole time being black, and then all of a sudden all of a sudden he starts a law, starts at a law firm and he's white. Like, what the hell?
So I don't think he really thought this plan through.
We've got Soul Man 2 where he can't get into a law firm unless he's black and he has to keep pretending to be black.
So he has to keep pretending black, and then he ends up having like identity crisis because he's been doing it for so long that he actually thinks he's black at this point.
Well, he's like the Rachel Dolezal of the 80s, I guess. It's like
actually, no, a little bit, yeah, because it's kind of the same premise, except she wasn't using, I don't think, tanning pills or whatever. But
no.
And with her though, she was genuinely mentally ill though, where she like actually like identified as being black, like, and her parents were like,
no, yeah. I mean, I've listened to like podcasts about her. She was not mentally ill. She knew what she was doing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. She
okay.
But she felt like she identified as black. Like she did do that, but she knew for sure. I mean, I don't think you can blame it on a mental illness or anything. So it wasn't like she seriously thought she was black. She just identified as black, if that makes sense.
I see. Like, because her mom did say something about how like she like changed and was like said something about like
black
culturally or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, she had black brothers and sisters. Because adopted siblings and stuff like that from like Africa or somewhere. But yeah, still.
Okay. So she thought. It's still weird that she thought this would work. It didn't work though for a long time. That's the thing.
Yeah,
and, for like years.
Mm-hmm. I mean, she was the president of a local NAACP chapter. So
it's almost worse than what he's doing a little bit.
I think so. I mean, not to mention the fact that it happened in reality too. So it wasn't just some bad Hollywood people coming up with an idea.
No, she saw this movie. This movie's default. So this movie's what created Rachel Dolezal. Thanks a lot, guys.
We'll do a sequel to this movie called Soul Woman. But
it's just a documentary about her.
Oh boy!
Wow. Yeah, this movie exists.
Just want to see a movie with Rachel Dolezal and C. Thomas Howell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's lots of other weird shit happens. Like the landlord's daughter is like a liberal racist. Like it kind of goes like full circle. So she's like one of these white like liberal women who like goes out of her way to like intentionally date people outside of her race. Like that's what she's actually shooting for. Like not so much of like, oh, I met a guy I like. Like she's like, no, I want a black man. I want a Native American man. Like, you know what I mean?
Like something she's basically like something I was called on Facebook today, which isn't really true. I was called I was called by somebody in a post. I was called a virtual, that everything I post online is virtual signaling. So, yeah, I don't think so, but yeah.
I mean, it's only virtual signaling if you don't actually believe what you're posting. So
yeah, exactly.
But you're not signaling anything if you're just doing it. Like,
I never post anything I don't believe in. So yeah.
It's usually people who are like terrible pieces of shit who even say that anyway, because they're
the person said it. His name on Facebook was there was something like Zuck for jail, like meaning Mark Zuckerberg, and then like he changed his first name to say something else. It was like one word, but if you read it, it said like, so it was something about Mark Zuckerberg, and then his profile picture was of some like MAGA rapper guy, and
probably just some bot or like,
and everything on his page was just all these Trump worshiping photos and stuff like that. So yeah,
probably just a troll account from Estonia or some shit. So like Jan from The Office has quote unquote jungle fever, even though it's like white fever, I guess. I don't know. And then like, so like she's the landlord's daughter. The landlord's pretty racist, as well as the manager. The manager like takes his buddy aside. It's like, you didn't tell me that like, you know, your roommate was like, you know, and he's like, what do you mean? He's like a Negro. I'm like, 1986, still using the word Negro, unironically. And then his buddy's like, oh my God, like, I never knew this. Like, thank you so much for telling. You know, he's like jackass, whatever.
I think for ratings reasons, I think they just kept saying Negro instead of the actual N word.
Well, that's good at least. Go that far into it.
I think they got one for ratings. There's one time that the N-word is actually used. I think at that time you could say it like once in a movie.
Oh wow, that's
there
you go. That's the tolerance, man.
Yeah.
Oh my god. So she fucks him, and Jan from the office is like, they have these things. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
The way she uses the fact that he uses it actually too. Like she says that she's studying she was studying civil rights at college. And he said, I love civil rights, and he basically uses that to get laid by a very, incredibly attractive Melora Hardin. But so
it's a weird pickup line too. Like whatever. I guess anything would sway her, and because she again she's like one of these white liberal racists who's shoehorn where it's I know that we always think of racists being these right wing tobacco spitting type of guys, but there's also the other side of the white liberal where it's very patronizing, condescending, but in a nice way. And so she said something I could feel 400 years of oppression in every single thrust. I'm like, holy fucking shit. Someone wrote that line in the movie. And
she talks about how there's all this not every stereotype is true, and basically implies that he has a small penis.
Yeah, because she's penis size. And he's like, wait, what? Oh my gosh, shut the fuck up. Yeah, go ahead.
And she said, she says, do you mind if I use this in a short story? And she wants to write the short story she wants to call it Shades of Gray, because she doesn't really believe in black or white.
So there it is. It's still, at least even back then, they still were making fun of white liberal racists.
so my feeling is that was actually the beginning of 50 Shades of Gray. That was going to be the first shade. And then, that was what started the whole thing. Yeah. Oh God. So much happened in this movie. It's hard to. Can we get to the part where he meets the girl then? Because we're we're trying to everything happened. Go ahead. He'd met the girl earlier on. He met Sarah earlier.
Right.
She comes up to him, and he's basically automatically attracted to her. I mean, she was a beautiful girl, but she invites him to some kind of black law group of some sort meeting that they're going to have, and so later on, his buddy tells him what that is, and he says, it's a very militant group. He shows up at the meeting dressed like a friggin' Black Panther.
My God, so cringe, man!
He's looking like Long walking into the thing or something, and it's just what the fuck.
It's just so sad. It's so cringy. And at one point, he does something else too. I forgot. Oh yeah, when he's at his first day of law school, and the James Earl Jones Darth Vader voice is doing a name call, and then you call his name, he goes, right on. I'm like, oh my God, dude, shut. And James Earl Jones is looking at him hey, take this fuck, dude.
There's another time where he asks for the precedent of some case or something like that, and he says the precedent is Ronald Reagan, which is funny because Ron Reagan's in this movie, and
Ron Reagan, which is so weird because it's why is he acting this way? Because it's he wants to go to law school desperately, so why is he fucking up immediately? I'm starting to wonder if he's just super nervous and he's blurting shit out,
But when he says that thing, I wrote down the line which I think actually epitomizes the whole movie that James Earl Jones says. It actually kind of is a synopsis of this movie, and he says in response to that Ronald Reagan line, he says, I'm not a humorless man, but if you're going to take up my class time making jokes, please see to it that they are funny.
Yeah, that's a good one. And the whole movie.
I feel this whole movie. If you're going to take up my time with jokes, please see to it that they're funny. They weren't.
No lie, I'm not even joking. Halfway through, I put the speed on 1.25 just to get through the rest of the movie. I was this movie's almost 2 hours long, so I'm I can't stay here for 2 hours.
Is it any funnier? I mean, it's only
Not really.
going. I mean, it's 104 minutes, but yeah, I was going to say, is it any funnier and faster speed?
Not really, because some of these scenes lasted way too long. Even with 1.25, there were still like too many awkward pauses that went too long. So I'm like, imagine watching this in the regular speed, like 30 seconds of like silent, like, okay, are we moving along here? So like, go ahead.
To be fair, a lot of movies back then kind of took more time to get to things, but still, it's like, yeah.
That is true, though. That is true.
Yeah.
Because, you had to actually go buy a ticket and go to the movie theater, so they wanted people to get their money's worth.
This wasn't something that you were just watching on, as like a second screen while you're while you're playing on your phone or surfing, Instagram or whatever, So
that it's so much second screen, but it's the reality we live in. It's bad, but that's the world we live in now. And so like, I mean, this movie plays on so many racial and sometimes it seems like they're trying to make a point, but like they're being racist while making the point. Like, so like at one point, the landlord's daughter invites them over for dinner, and Leslie Nielsen is like clearly pissed off that she brought a black guy to the table. But then like every single character in the family has like a different stereotype that they picture him. So like, of course, like mother, like daughter, apparently she, pictures him as like a beastly black man who's going to like ravage her. She's like licking her lips. So I guess I know where she got the proclivity, from her apparently. And so, and then the boy, by the way, the boy is like watching like what we would do now. Like he's got headphones on. He's watching like a screen while eating. 1986.
Like a portable TV, like, one of the first like kind of portable TVs they used to have back then. I used to have one, but not that big though, because I got mine more in the 90s, but still. It's like,
so it's kind of interesting that like that's also like what kids now do these days, but like with their phone. And so like he imagines him as being okay. So he imagines this one confused me.
Yeah.
He imagines him as go ahead.
You go ahead.
Okay. So he imagines him as looking kind of like Prince, but playing the guitar like a mixture of like Jimi Hendrix and Eddie Van Halen, I guess. I don't know. It's like,
but the thing is, in his imagination, Mark as Prince like licks his lips looking at this little boy. So that's
right.
What? So is the little boy having like sexual dreams about like his arm? I don't know.
Exactly. And he's like 10 at this time or something like. Yeah, I don't think they thought that through. And then the dad, of course, sees him as like he's literally eating a watermelon as his daughter's pregnant with his baby. I don't even want to say it because it was so racist. Like,
yeah, it's like something like, about go grab me my my heroin and my hypodermic needle or something like that to her, and you B word and all this other stuff, and it's just like, what the fuck?
Also grab another watermelon. I'm like, that was hard for me to watch. I was like, oh my god, that's really did what I spent it for.
This scene, in my opinion, is just as, if not more, racist than Birth of a Nation.
No, seriously, no, totally, because they're making a point against it. Like they are trying to.
Who was?
Whereas Birth of a Nation was like promoting racism. Yeah. Like,
okay, I thought for a second there you were saying that Birth of a Nation was against racism.
Oh no, I'm saying that. No. I'm saying that like Birth of a Nation is like the American version of like those Reich. What's her name? The German. What was her name?
Leni Riefenstahl. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much the American version of her Nazi propaganda films. Like,
in a way, it was just interesting. And there's another interesting thing too that I guess, well, this wasn't played at the White House, but Soul Man was played at Camp David for the whole Reagan family.
Oh my god! Because Ron was in the movie. Yeah,
and Ronald Reagan, President Reagan, loved the movie.
Of course he did. Of course he did. Of course he did. I mean, yeah.
Whereas, like, I think who was it? Was it? Oh, I can't remember which president. It was Wilson or some president back in the day really loved Birth of a Nation, was their favorite movie. So.
Oh yeah, I forgot which one, but yeah, I know what you're talking about. I mean, I'm not surprised, Mr. Ronald Reagan, Mr. Inventor of the term welfare queen and saying young bucks eating too many T-bone steaks, shit like that. It's like, oh my god.
He literally popularized the word welfare queen. So yeah.
So that was a piece of shit. But not their son's not, but
it's oh my god.
It's an interesting film. But so much, so many. I can't even name all. I don't remember all the races. I'm worried this movie's gonna like make me like racist just from like subliminally, just like.
No, that's not gonna happen.
Good. Well, I hope not. But like, so put this in perspective. So he falls in love with this girl or woman, Sarah, who's beautiful beyond measure. I don't even know how to describe it, but like, she's like one of the natural beauty. Like, I don't know how you could even describe it. Like, she's very pretty, very beautiful, very nice character, very kind character. And you got this moron pretending to be black. So like, okay, so there's like this big. I know I'm on a tangent here, but there's like this big controversy within like the transgender community, for example, where whether or not a trans person, particularly trans woman, should tell a person up front that they're dating that they're trans or not, so that the person doesn't quote feel tricked. And this is actually important because there's actually a law in a lot of states called the gay panic law, where if a man murders a trans woman that he has had sex with because he didn't know prior to the sexual activity that she was trans, that he could like get off on a lighter sentence or just not get convicted at all because, quote, she tricked him. So this is like an important conversation among the trans community, particularly the trans women community, where they're like, well, should we tell them up front or should we not? And a lot are like, no, we should. Like, not because we owe them that, but like to save our lives, potentially. Like, and so like, but this guy is pretending to be black, which is almost like worse in a way because he's like pretending to be a completely different race.
I know.
And so she's thinking that she's falling in love with the black man.
So,
oh god.
I looked it up, and it was Woodrow Wilson who screened Birth of a Nation at the White House.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense because
his response to watching it was like writing history with lightning.
Yeah, that's a fucked up phrase right there.
He loved the movie.
I don't even understand what that means. Writing history with lightning, like
I don't know either.
What does that mean? Like writing history super fast, or like I don't know what.
It's so exciting or something, maybe. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Maybe. He was a piece of shit, too. I don't like Glenn Beck, because I know a lot of people now, like idiots like Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks, are like thinking that Glenn Beck is awesome and stuff, that he's such an open-minded guy. This guy, he literally said that Woodrow Wilson was, quote, like the communist president, and that he's the one that brought progressivism into the United States, and that's what's turned our country into the terrible country it is today. This was one of Obama, the first black president, was president. Anyway, and but Woodrow Wilson, like the first president that actually like really went hard against the communists. So I don't know who he's thinking of. like everyone else before him was like, yeah, whatever, who cares? And he was like, no, the communists are evil. We need to really crack down on them. And Glenn Beck's like, no, he's the first communist president because he went against the communists. Wait, what? Anyway, sorry, I know.
Well, I think if Soul Man was nominated for Best Actor, C. Thomas Howell would have been the first black actor to win an Oscar. I'm joking.
It's so terrifying. No. Also, that reminded me. So this guy, he kind of looked and acted a little bit like Jim Carrey. I don't know if you noticed that.
Who did? C. Thomas Howell?
The main actor, the guy who's pretending to be black, didn't he kind of a little bit look and act like Jim Carrey? Like, not a lot, but like maybe like 15%.
A little bit. I just saw him as C. Thomas Howell because I know C. Thomas Howell from The Outsiders and other movies. But yeah, I guess I could see the similarities to Carrey. So one of my other, like stray observations about this film is that I think it's interesting that anybody believed he was black.
Right, exactly. No, he literally looked like he was taking tanning pills. Like,
I mean, if anything, he looked like he was maybe Pakistani or something, but not black. It was just,
and it's like I was telling my mom this earlier. I was like, one of the very few redeeming qualities of this movie is that he just acted like himself. Like he wasn't like trying to quote do a black voice or whatever, because that would have made it even worse. And so maybe they're okay to play as himself. Like
I know. At least he wasn't doing it all the time. He did do it in a scene or two. Yeah, like so. I mean, where were we in the breakdown of this? Yeah.
We're talking about Sarah, how he was like falling in love with her and she was falling in love with him.
So basically, he ends up fucking things up the first time they're supposed to get together, because he has sex with Melora Hardin's character and everything. But then they end up eventually he convinces her to study with him, especially after he realizes she has a kid. So yeah, on top of that, she's a single mother. Which we can go into other things about that.
Of course. No. So there is this part. Oh, go ahead. So,
I was just going to say, a black single mother in the movie. It's like, I don't know. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with black single mothers, but I'm just saying
it's like
it's building the stereotype is what I'm getting at. So yeah,
I don't know if they're doing that to make a point against it, but badly, because it just seems like they're just being because even his character. So like, I thought he was like her younger brother, because I was thinking she's like 19, 20 years old. And then like, he's like, oh, I didn't know he is, whatever. So even he is like thinking that it might be her kid.
Yeah.
Like, because I was thinking like, oh, might have been her younger brother, because she's like maybe 20 years old. Like I'm not going to straight away assume that like a young child's like her son because she's like 20 years old or something like that.
So anyway, she ends up meeting him in the library one day when he says, I'll be at the library at 7:00 or whatever. And, just meet me there if you want to study. And then they start falling in love. And, and then there's one time, like, she invites him over for dinner because she's staying in Boston with her grandparents. Yeah. So my whole thing is watching that scene kind of made me cringe.
Yeah.
You have these older black actors, and Rae Dong Chong, who's like half black, and a guy in blackface.
No.
The scene together, it's just that scene just made me cringe.
It's very cringeworthy, and also too, because you got to remember this movie was made in 1986, and those black actors are old in 1986, which means they were young in 1946 or 1936, where racism was really bad.
Yeah, they were alive pre-civil rights, so they
were like adults pre-civil rights, probably. And you have this fucking guy pretending to be black.
even really 20 years prior to this, it's like what.
And then you got this fucker pretending to be black in their house. It's like, bitch, you get out of that house. You don't belong there. Like. Sully their house with your white bullshit pretending to be black.
But so they go outside and it's snowing, and he says, "Oh wow, this is cool!" Like, and they're reacting to the snow, like, and she says that the first time she's seen snow, and he's like, "Oh, where are you from?" And she says that she's from San Diego, and he realizes, "Oh, we're both from California." And then she says, "Oh, you must be the one that got the scholarship."
Oh, and right.
So we find out that the scholarship area would have been opened up wider if nobody in Los Angeles took the scholarship to like the whole state of California. So
she was probably going to get it, and then
she said she was next in line for it, and was all set to get it until all of a sudden Mark gets the scholarship.
So that kind of confused me a little bit, because it's like an affirmative action type scholarship, right?
Yeah.
Is that kind of what they're getting at? So wouldn't her being a black woman like make her more like, you know what I mean, like deserving of it? Like, you know what I mean? Like
no. Like, see, the thing about it is that it starts out being available to people in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay, I see. And then all right.
But if nobody in Los Angeles receives the scholarship, then it opens up to the broader state. So
okay, I got you. All right.
So she wasn't eligible for it until nobody in Los Angeles got it. So yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was trying to figure out what. Yeah, because she was like, it was like 2 days too. It's like you must drive the knife even further into your like twist it. Like, yeah, it was like 2 days, and then boom, someone else got it. I'm like, oh Jesus. And he of course feels like a piece of shit because he is.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And she's like, oh, don't be sorry. It's fine. I'm like, no, you should be sorry. In fact, that scene earlier with the noose, I'm not saying you should do that, but like, you're a piece of shit. Like,
it's like, I wanted to punch my TV when she says, oh, I'm happy it was you that got it. I was like, what the
no, you should not be happy. You should be furious. And actually, you are in the later in the movie furious, rightfully so.
Yes. So, and another thing we have like, okay, so we have these, there's just like some stray things I'm mentioning here before we get further into the plot that, just happen randomly throughout the movie. We have these two idiots who keep making bad racist jokes.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying that any racist jokes are good, but these weren't even like quote unquote funny. They
were
for anything. I mean, one of them was literally, how many Negroes does it take to screw in a light bulb?
Okay.
Like one to hold it and the other one to drive the pink Cadillac in circles as he's screwing it in or something like that. And I'm just like, I don't even get that.
Sense. Like what? Doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
What? Okay. All right.
Yeah. So
sure, I guess.
Yeah. Anyways, these two idiots. I feel bad for Wallace Langham, who he went on to be like on CSI and other things. He's a great, humorous actor and everything, but it's just like he gets stuck telling all these bad jokes throughout the movie. I'm just like,
it's like he needed work, man. He needed work, and so this is what he's like. Okay, I gotta say a bunch of racist shit that's gonna come back to me later on in life.
Yes,
and but hey, I need to work, so I guess that's future problems.
But I mean, I don't feel too bad for him. At least he had a decent career afterwards. So
no, absolutely.
Yeah, and still does. But anyways, so they keep saying these jokes and Mark keeps overhearing them and they keep saying no offense, man, or something like that. It's just like, oh my God.
And like, except first he's like, no worries, but then like the more he keeps hearing them because they think he's black,
the matter.
And so it's like, yeah.
So there's that going on. Also, visiting the school at some point, Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character and her boyfriend are there, and so.
Oh God, this scene.
So Mark, they run into his buddy, and then he has to introduce he's like, who's your friend? And it's like, he puts on sunglasses, and then he starts pretending like he's like Stevie Wonder or some shit, like he's blind. And
why would you do that?
It made no sense to me. And then it says, oh no, he's just dumb, he can't hear and stuff like that. And then it's just like he can't hear well. And then also he introduces him as Kareem Abdul-Ali.
Oh God. She's like, is he Muslim? He goes, no, he's Canadian. What? Like what? So there's no Muslims in Canada apparently. What the fuck, dude?
But yes, so they're kind of trying to avoid that, and like they're probably the closest thing we have to like antagonists in this movie, because there really isn't. I mean, I guess the racist people throughout the whole movie are antagonists to like that, or the fact that the whole movie is just an antagonist to the viewer.
Exactly, the whole movie itself is an antagonist to black people. Like,
yeah. Or humanity in general. And
the movie takes the form of evil.
Yes. So they're they at one point find out that that Mark got this scholarship, and that he's not really black, obviously. But so what's going on here? Basically, there's at one point his parents come to visit, and liberal white chick is in his in his bed half naked, and so his parents are there, and then Sarah's supposed to come over to study. So it's like a little mini British farce in the middle of the movie, So it's like, doors opening, because basically a lot of British farces are all just people going in and out of doors, and
yeah, it's like a trope that they have in other shows.
Yeah, I acted in a couple of those. One on stage, which I really liked, but called Funny Money, which was made into a really bad movie that we should probably cover this sometime, starring Chevy Chase. And they take a British farce and Americanize it and totally kill the whole. I don't know. Anyway, so
I remember watching it as a kid and I hated it. I thought it was terrible. And,
you might be thinking of Funny Farm too, because Funny Money came out in the late 2000s. So yeah, but So this little scene, you've got Mark's putting on a ski mask, and so he can hide the fact that he's darker skinned, so his parents don't see it, and he keeps taking it off and putting it back on, and blah 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 and everything, and then eventually Laura Hardin's character ends up on the fire escape, like half naked, and then the pervy Jeff Altman's character sees her and is like something like "holy clam chowder" or something like that, something very stupid. And it's like we got to emphasize the fact that this is in Boston, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, so he tells Leslie Nielsen's character probably.
Yeah, and so they end up getting evicted. But also, Sarah thinks that that Mark still got a thing going on with civil rights chick, and I forgot the character's name, so I'm just, what the hell? More Whitney, which is
what's her name?
Whitney, which is interesting because Whitney is like, I can't remember the meaning of that name. It's
if he's like white or something, or
yeah, it's derived from a place name meaning White Island.
White Island. Wow. And so there's this part I wanted to make just a quick point about that. So he asks Sarah at one point what she thinks about interracial relationships, and she's kind of like about to say, it's kind of complicated or whatever, but then everything goes haywire. So she eventually meets his parents. So I'm thinking he could have just made another lie. I mean, I'm glad he didn't, because he's already told enough lies that it is. He could have been like, hey, I'm adopted. It's my white parents, that kind of thing. But he didn't even think of doing that. So whatever. And then
during the scene, at one point, he takes the ski mask off and walks in on his parents, and he starts like jive talking.
Oh my God. I think I zoned out at that point.
Yeah. He's like saying something like, and he says to his mom, he's like, "Hey there, mama," or something like that.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ.
Oh boy. So yeah, oh God. So eventually, after this chaos goes on, he goes to basically reveal what's up to his professor. But he somehow ends up getting put on a judiciary committee instead.
Yeah, because they're like having completely different conversations with each other. Yeah.
So that happens, but eventually he ends up deciding to drop the charade. I'm just saying charade just because I can. Charade. Then we have like this big scene with that judiciary committee, where Gordon comes in, his buddy, and introduces this whole thing, and he talks about how he does say something. He's like talking about how his when you're raised in a certain area, by selfish people, you can't judge somebody based on the color of their skin. And he's trying to basically make the point, and everybody thinks he's making a point about Mark being black, but he's actually making a point about Mark being white.
Like rich parents who coddled him and shit. So that was like at least a good attempt of trying to make a point, even then it was still racist. But
they come so close so many times doing something good.
They're like at the precipice each time, and it's like, nope.
So then Mark walks into this room, and I guess he stopped taking these tanning pills because he was like overdosing on tanning pills too. So we've got overdosing on taking too many drugs. So I'm sorry.
So somehow he didn't have any health problems during an entire semester of doing it.
I know. I mean, what was his plan? Was he going to do this for 3 years? Like you said, it's just like ridiculous.
Then for the rest of his life, he probably would have died from taking too many of these pills.
I know.
Like died at the age of 30. So all of this was for naught, So
I mean, well, he already died. His skin. Bum. Anyways. So he comes in, and basically everybody's like in shock, and it's like, and then the boyfriend of Julia Louis-Dreyfus's character comes in. He was about to announce that he was white, but Mark was already in there and he was white, so it didn't really.
Yeah, he was like, "Oh man, this is my shot to get into Harvard," and it's like, nope.
Yeah. So basically he has this meeting with his professor, and he explains everything to him. And he said, he's the professor's in one of the, feel bad for James Earl Jones, saying something to him is like, well, at least you know what it's like to be black. And at least they had the common sense to have him respond that he's like, I still don't know what it's like to be black because I could have changed back to being white at any time.
Yeah, that was actually a good line. I'm glad they actually had the foresight to do, or like, I don't know, whatever, like, to do that.
He decides to like forfeit his scholarship, obviously, and then it can go to Sarah, and he pays what he owes, and what was lost on the scholarship and everything. And that way she can spend more time with her son George. And so some time goes by, and he ends up working. Oh, by the way, she was working in the cafeteria as well as raising her kid, so that's why she would be tired sometimes in class and stuff throughout the movie. So
Yeah.
But now she doesn't have to work there, so he's working there in the cafeteria now at the end, so he can pay for his schooling, and his dad gave him some kind of loan or something too. So eventually, he sees her and he ends up, going to her and tries to beg for another chance. Yeah. Okay. So,
but she says no at first. But then what happens?
Then, Tweedledee and Tweedledum make some racist joke in the place, and something about a test tube baby or something. I don't even know what it was, and I didn't even understand the joke. And and so Mark ends up punching both of them because he told the joke in front of Sarah and her kid.
Yeah.
And so then he walks out of the building, and she comes out after him, and then she forgives him and says, I think maybe interracial relationships can work
because he defended her honor. She's like, oh, all of my beliefs have changed.
Yes.
You know how that happens, right? You punch someone in the face.
I'm sure that you just lied to me about being black for the last 4 months. Like, what the fuck?
Again, how much of a mindfuck would that be? Like, it's just, oh man. It's not even like I would be offended. It's like more of just like, what? Like, wait, you're like a completely different person now? Like, but with her, it is a little bit different because, she's black and it's a different type of context, but
And so a couple of like little trivia things. Do you want to hear some things?
Oh, sure.
Okay, so the movie is produced by Steve Tisch, who is also currently the co-owner and executive vice president of the New York Giants. And he produced Risky Business prior to this. He produced Forrest Gump. He produced American History X, a movie that deals
Whoa.
A movie that deals with racism in a proper way. Anyway,
but also very brutal way too.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yeah. He's also producing he produced the Equalizer movies with Denzel. He's also producing the upcoming Masters of the Universe movie.
Okay, that's very random.
There's like a bunch of other movies too that he produced throughout the years, but those were just ones that I found interesting.
So Forrest Gump is also very stereotypical about like mental disability or whatever, like, so,
and racism, both in the same character.
Yes,
both in the same character, but also in Forrest himself too. So,
yes.
So the role of Mark Watson was originally offered to several other people prior to C. Thomas Howell, including Anthony Michael Hall, Anthony Edwards, Val Kilmer, and John Cusack.
Wow.
Also,
okay.
Prior to C. Thomas Howell being cast, someone accepted the role. Tim Robbins accepted the role, but he dropped out. He dropped out prior to filming for a very interesting reason, because filming went over schedule on Howard the fucking Duck.
Oh, come on! God damn it!
So I've tried to
review that.
Which would have been. I mean, luckily he able to went on to do like Shawshank Redemption and other great movies after Howard the Duck. But it's just interesting that the reason that he couldn't do this horrible movie is because he was in a horrible movie.
Oh my god. That first Marvel movie too, apparently. Oh my god. We reviewed that like 4 years ago. If you want to check that out.
We reviewed that a long time ago, and be sure to take a listen to that if you want to, folks. So
or as good as we are now with 4 years old. Do it.
But still, it was a good episode. So here's some other trivia. C. Thomas Howell had to wear colored contacts, especially when his skin was black, because his eyes are normally a goldish color, and it really stood out once his skin was darkened.
Wow.
C. Thomas Howell and Ray Dawn Chong met on the set of this film and married shortly after, and were married for 1 year and then divorced.
Okay.
So they fell in love on the movie like their characters did.
Was he pretending to be Asian at one point then, like being extra racist? They're like...
Yeah. Oh yeah. Speaking of other racist things, at that like little trial thing, Melora Hardin's character is now there with a Native American guy and talking about
I was going to mention that.
talking about how she doesn't see race. She doesn't see red or white. She sees things as more of a shade of pink.
Is that what she said?
Yes.
Oh my god! He kind of like scowled at her. He's like, "What?"
Yes.
Like, oh man.
Yeah. So, I'm really curious now. Hold on about something while we're talking about things. I don't see him in the credits. I was just trying to figure out if that, I don't know, but a lot of times Native Americans weren't played by Native Americans. So I was just really curious if that was
yeah, that's true. My question though is, why did so many people show up for that hearing? Like, was it required, or they just felt like going? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's that big of when we went to college, I was like, "Oh, Mike, you heard of doing a disciplinary hearing? You want to go check that out?" Like, what?
I was like, "No, I'm going to go home and watch American Idol instead," or something.
Like I'm talking about, like, yeah, I'm gonna go carve out an hour of my day to watch a discipline of a fellow student that I don't even know. Just like.
Yeah, so
because they had no idea. See, they didn't know he was pretending to be black at that time, so it wasn't even like an interesting thing. Like they just went, you know what I mean? Like
it's like I don't know if they were all there because they were just basically racist and wanted to see a black guy get punished or what.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. So like, hey, one of our 2 black students is gonna get kicked out. Let's go show up and like heckle him. Not heckle him. Like,
yeah. So another person who was offered the role of Mark and luckily turned it down as well was Ralph Macchio.
No, that wouldn't have worked.
Who co-starred with C. Thomas Howell in The Outsiders. Have you ever seen The Outsider?
Yes. Like a long time ago, like a bunch of times, and I was like a bear, but
it's a great movie. Anyway, so
I think I remember it good, but I just haven't seen it in so long.
So at the time of its release, the NAACP rallied against the movie. Students of the at UCLA protested outside the theater screening of it. We find the Al Jolson portrayal of the main character offensive and trivializing, wrote the university's Black American Law Students Association, referencing the infamous blackface performer star of The Jazz Singer. And at the time, a young filmmaker named Spike Lee, who had just had his directorial debut with She's Gotta Have It, put it on blast in an uncomfortable appearance on the Dick Cavett show. He said, the whole premise is that he's passing as black, and it's so phony. That means all the black people in the movie are idiots, that they could think that this guy is actually black.
True, but you have to suspend disbelief for this movie.
He says they're trying to pass it off as an attack on racism. I really don't see it that way. That's not funny to me. It's like its creators said that it was a well-intentioned comedy that teaches a white man he can't understand racism until he's the one being discriminated against. A comedy with heart and soul, read the tagline for the film. C. Thomas Howell said, a white man donning blackface is taboo. Conversation over, you can't win. But our intentions were pure. He wanted to make a funny movie that had a message about racism. It used comedy as a device to expose sexual stereotyping. I think Soul Man uses he said it's like Tootsie. It used comedy as a device to expose sexual stereotyping. I think Soul Man uses it to explore racial stereotyping. This is said by Steve Tisch, the producer. He was comparing,
of course,
like Ray Dong Chong and other people have all like tried to defend the movie over the years.
Of course, because they were in it. And they're like trying to salvage their. I mean, like, except for Tootsie was actually good though, so I don't think you should be able to compare it to that.
No, it's like and like even even though like just one of the guys which we just covered, which I thought was going to be probably offensive, wasn't really that offensive.
Well, not really. That was actually good.
And it's kind of a similar premise, but it's right down to like a scholarship sort of thing, but in a different way. But that one, she was actually discriminated against because
she was a woman, where this guy just didn't have money to go to college.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's similar, but like not at all at the same time.
So the movie did make money at the box office. It grossed $35 million on a $4.5 million budget. And, but it did have a fast, like, downfall after that. And then, so it was, like, it's kind of hard, but it's like in the same year, though, Disney also re-released Song of the South in theaters the same year. So any other thoughts about this? I think I'm done talking. I mean, there's probably more I could say, but
I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't want to watch this movie anymore.
No, I mean, I'm thinking that what we're going to do is change this podcast. Okay, here's my preposition here. What we're going to do is break down every minute of this film for the next 104 weeks. Okay.
Oh, no! Wait, didn't someone already do that for some other movie? What was
there's a podcast called the Star Wars Minute where they break down every minute of the Wars. But yes,
that is insane, dude.
But we're gonna do it for Soul.
Yeah, that's our niche now. Is no, pay me to do that. You could pay me $1 million to do that.
We're gonna just call it a minute of soul, and
yeah, there you go, Soul Minute,
Soul Minute.
Yeah. Oh God,
we'll bring in historians every week to talk. No,
like to contextualize everything that brought together the stars to make this movie. That doesn't brought together stars. It doesn't make any sense. But like, none of the jokes did either, so I guess that's fine.
It's completely fine because after seeing this movie, nothing in the world makes sense to me anymore. But actually, since November 5th, since actually most of my life, nothing's made sense. So,
yeah, at this point, yeah.
Yes. So if something actually makes sense, then I'll be scared.
Yeah.
So, folks, thanks for listening here. If you can, just go to all2reeltoo.com and check out all of our links there. You can listen to previous episodes, including our Howard the Duck review from a few years back. If you haven't listened to last week's episode about I almost said She's All That. That's another movie that's similar premise. But just one of the guys, you can check that out. And there's also Patreon. We have a Patreon. Go check that out and do it up and help us support the show, because we don't have any advertisers. Yeah, I know there's some at the beginning of the show here and there, but we don't really make much money from the advertising unless we get lots and lots of listens. So the best way to help support us is to go to our Patreon. Just being completely upfront about that, folks. Join our Patreon and get some good shit, and spread the word. Go on your social media and be like, hey, check out this cool podcast I listen to, maybe you should listen to it too. And comment, all that good stuff, comment underneath the videos on YouTube. We do have a YouTube if you are listening to this elsewhere. You can't see our beautiful faces on there. It's all just audio, but help out the algorithm and comment. And just remember that I love you. Blackface is bad.
Yep.
This is definitely not the Cosby decade. And Sesame loves you.
Yeah, I do.
Trans lives are human lives. Free Palestine. Fight the Christo-fascist patriarchy. And until next time, bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to All2ReelToo podcast, a Cullen Park production. Produced and edited by Michael E. Cullen II. Music by Matthew Hawes. Subscribe and share the show. Visit us at cullenpark.com.